So it's traditional now to, on other days of the week, to say Avinu Malkeinu. But Avinu Malkeinu is what's called a petitionary prayer. It means a prayer when you ask for things. But Shabbat, which tonight is a time where we need nothing because
Amen.
It's a taste of the Messianic age.
Amen.
So it's traditional not to say Avinu Malkeinu on Shabbat. We won't say it tonight, and we won't say it tomorrow morning either. But I do have some things I'd like to say. I was thinking about, what to share with you on this very special first night of the high holiday season. And it took a while, but I thought what I'd really share with you is some themes of the high holiday season that kind of keep percolating all through the liturgy as we journey together. There are three themes. We'll look at each one of them. The first theme is God's kingship. God is king. The second one is the enduring power of memory. And the third is the shofar, which has come to represent redemption. And I'll talk a little while about why. So let's start with what I think is the toughest thing. God envisioned as king. The whole idea of God sitting on a throne with a white beard, looking down on the world, as just an understanding of what God is, seems really very childish and simplistic. And I had a lot of trouble dealing with that for a long time. During the Malchuyot section of our service tomorrow afternoon, we'll be really focusing on that. And one of the things we'll do during the Malchuyot section of the service, we'll do the Grand Aleinu. It's like, in fact, that's where Aleinu started. It kind of infused the rest of the prayer service after, but at first it was only said on Rosh Hashanah. So the Grand Aleinu, not only were we supposed to bow down before the God on the throne, we're supposed to prostrate ourselves on the ground and put our head on the earth. And though my balance isn't too good, I'm going to try it tomorrow.
Excellent.
So, as I said, I was very uncomfortable with this whole idea of God as king and bowing down and all that. But then I thought about it, and I said, when you bow down, it's sort of saying that there's something bigger than I am. There's something greater than I am. So, I kind of came to some equilibration about it with understanding it was a way of expressing humility. Just saying, there's something else besides me. It was a hard thing to accept that there was something else besides me. But I came to understand it. But I'd like to say that there was also something that kept bothering me about this, which is that if God is a king, then God's in charge. The king decides what happens. And, being somewhat of a control freak, and some people might attest to that, I had a lot of trouble with that. But as I grew older, I realized there was something liberating about giving up control. Clinging to the idea that I was responsible for everything was really difficult. It was particularly difficult for me when I was practicing medicine, because doctors make decisions about what to do based on statistics. You decide what treatment is, and 95% of the time, if you decide this, everything works out. And 5% of the time, even if you make the right decision, things don't work out. And I was cruising along because 95% is a pretty good statistic. Things were going really right. So I was feeling really good about myself, like what a terrific doctor I am. And then there was this one case, which, it's almost 40 to 50 years later, I still remember, was this really wonderful young woman who had a terrific prognosis. She had a 95% chance of surviving and a 5% chance of not. So I applied the appropriate treatment, and guess what? 2 years later, she called me and told me that she'd fallen during skiing, and her back was still hurting a month later, severely. And I knew what that meant. I knew that the cancer had recurred. And that she would die of it. And in fact, she did 2 years later. And I was a pretty young doctor at the time, and I really mourned and grieved and cried for quite a while, and I still remember it today. It's a really dramatic case. It just seemed so wrong to me that she would die. But then I came to understand that, there was this 5%, and I couldn't control that. Who was that 5%? And they were going to keep turning up in my practice the longer and longer I practiced. So I came to understand that I was not in full control of any of my patients' outcomes. In fact, when I got even wiser, I realized that I wasn't in control of anything in my life. So whenever we're invited to bow down in services, and we're going to be invited a few times, we bow down a couple of times tonight already. I think it's really good to bow down and accept that you're not really in charge of everything. Bow down in gratitude for all the things that have gone right in your life. And here's the more difficult thing. Bow down in acceptance for all the things that haven't gone down right in your life. Now, do things go right in your life because of luck, because of God, or because of your sincere efforts and your talent? Well, or some combination of the both? That's an answer you'll never understand and you'll never get the answer to. So when the time comes, it's an invitation to really bow down in acceptance for this idea that though you have some say about what things happen, you're not in total control. So the next theme is an easier one. It's beautiful, actually. It's this whole idea of remembering things. We have a ritualized way that we remember things in our services. Every time at the end of the service we do Kaddish, Mourner's Kaddish. And why do we do that? We do that to remember someone who's passed away. We also do Yizkor 4 times a year. And why do we do that? We do a bigger ritual to remember those people who have passed away. So memory is really important because it keeps people alive. When you remember somebody and you tell the stories about them to your kids, they come to life again. So we memorialize their lives with these prayers so we don't forget them. But there's something really even more about memory, because it's important not only to remember those who exist on some different plane of existence, it's good to remember the people in the world. The trouble with our world is there are a whole bunch of forgotten folks. We drive past them every day. They're holding out cups. They're living in tents. And we drive past them and we try and forget they exist because it's so painful to acknowledge that they're on the streets and we are powerless to do anything about it. But it's good not to forget them. It's really important to use the power of memory to remember them. So when we visit memory, and we'll visit a few times, and we'll visit again during the Musaf service, it's important to remember to do something about this. Now, I'm not going to tell you the solution to the problem of homelessness and poverty, because it ain't that easy. If it was easy, it wouldn't exist as a problem right now. But inaction's not going to solve the problem. So do something little. Donate to a charity. I know Bhavani, she's got those envelopes in the mail almost every day. Too many envelopes, because envelopes keep coming back every week. Donate to a charity, volunteer at a food bank, or this is what I love to do, find a politician who makes poverty and homelessness a priority. That's what he says he wants to deal with, and support those people. So if you think that you don't have a role and you can forget these people, I'm going to give you some inspirational words by a great rabbi, Rabbi Martin Luther King, because rabbis are teachers. And I love this. I just had to speak it tonight because I loved it. In a real sense, all life is interrelated. And believe me, if there are a few things I really believe that. All life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Yes. We're all tied together in a single garment of destiny. And no matter how we try and forget that, we can't forget that. We can't forget that. So there's one final last place I want to lead to. I want to visit the shofar, because that's the big thing. Eli, we're counting on you tomorrow. Make sure, and we'll be ready for it. Because the shofar is a wake-up call. It kind of wakes us up. So what's it kind of waking us to? It's waking up to a very important Jewish idea, a very important theological idea. Because the shofar is supposed to sound one more time, the great shofar, not the one we're going to sound in the synagogue and sound in the synagogues all over the world in Los Angeles. It's going to be a great shofar, like the great shofar that sounded at Mount Sinai. And it's going to sound announcing the Messianic age. The Messianic age will be a time of great healing. Now, though you guys don't know me very well, you might know me a little bit and know that healing is really important to me. So anything that's going to sound the sound and bring the world to healing, I love it. That's really where I want to be. And when the shofar sounds and the Messianic age starts, all the wounds of the world will start to be healed. The lion will no longer be wounding the lamb. They'll sit down together in peace. And all the political divisions, the terrible stuff we see going on in our politics today, will all be resolved and all will be in peace. So that's the big aspect of the healing that the shofar represents. But there's a much more personal healing that we can take from the shofar, because when it sounds tomorrow in the church, so what's better than a shofar sounding in a church? That's true interfaith work. When it sounds in the church, it's a reminder that you have personal healing to do. There are wounds you've inflicted. There are wounds you've inflicted on others, and there's also wounds you've inflicted on yourself. The shofar sound wakes you up to not being inactive. Do something about those wounds. Reach out to those people that you hurt. I know Bhavani and I have reached out already, and I'm going to keep reaching out to people I've hurt this year. It's not that reaching out always resolves the problem, but if you don't reach out, the problem will never resolve. Will never resolve. So the sound of the shofar is an invitation. It opens up whatever healing energy is inside of you, waiting to be revealed to the world. Our lives are not frozen in place. Sometimes as you get older, it seems like you get stiffer, it's hard to move, it's hard to change. But we're not frozen. You know, our tradition really believes that creation is an ongoing process. You know, it's said that God creates the world each day. We're B'Tselem Elohim. So we can be part of that creation of the world each day. You know, Abraham Joshua Heschel had a beautiful quote about this, which I'm going to quote as well. And above all, remember that the meaning of life is to build a life as if it were a work of art. Yeah, our lives are a work of art, and we create this work with our words and our deeds. So think about the work of art you're creating. What are you bringing to the world? You know, Andy and I are going to spend hours with you in prayer. There are so many prayers. You're going to say, who needs all these prayers? Well, we need all these prayers because some of the prayers will speak to you and some of them won't. They're all different because they inspire each of us in a different way if you're open to be inspired. If you come and you're not open to be inspired, guess what? Nothing's going to happen. But there's a diversity of prayers and ideas in this beautiful high holiday literature, in this high holiday season, and they all speak to us in different ways. So, as the high holiday evolves, I want you to think about how to build your lives like a great work of art. And I believe with perfect faith, that we'll all find some repentance, return, and renewal this year. If we just open our eyes to the beauty of this season, the beauty of the prayers, and the beauty of Cantor Andy's voice, which opens my heart all the time, and the beauty of the others who've joined us today, those online,
Absolutely.
and those who will be in the room surrounding us. And I have one more thing to say. Maybe we can say it together. Kain
Yehi
Ratzon.
Ratzon.
May it be so.
Amen.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.